morning, beloved. It is so good to see those of you here in our sanctuary in Summit, New Jersey, located on the ancestral and continued lands of the Lenni Lenape. And I welcome as well all of those joining us virtually. And although I cannot see you, I hope you can see the love that we are sending to you and the gratitude that you have chosen. Kathy Menendez in the front row is sending all the love as the camera pivots. I am Reverend Robin. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a member of the lead ministry team here at Beacon. I want to welcome you this day. Perhaps it's your very first visit to Beacon or to a Unitarian Universalist community. Maybe it's your 500th visit. Maybe some of you are coming into this place out from the brisk, crisp air, and your heart is bursting with joy. Or maybe like mine, your heart was breaking a little this morning. I know my own heart has been heavy with the news of the murder of Next Benedict, a non-binary and two-spirit teen in Oklahoma. And I have to be honest, I had a terrible dream last night, and there was a part of me that wanted to build a blanket fort today. And then I remembered you, Beacon. I remembered that this is a place where we can come with our hearts breaking, that we can come uncertain of what is next or how to get there, and that across the miles and minutes for this time, we can find our light together. And not only can we find the light and rekindle it, we can magnify it. So thank you. Thank you for coming this day. Thank you for choosing to be here. Would you take a breath with me as we center in to what we call worship, that is to consider what is of worth. And our worship doesn't end at the conclusion of this hour, beloved. It continues in so many ways across the days and weeks. Today, some of us will be headed to the UU congregation in Montclair for a vigil for Next at 1 p.m. I hope that you'll consider joining me. Others will take up the long haul work this day of the future of Beacon, how we can kindle this light for generations to come in our community discussion right after this service in the library. There are many ways to be Beacon, and the most important one is showing up. Whether you're showing up online or showing up in person, thank you for showing up today. I'd like to invite forward Beacon member Chad to share some good news and a little bit more light as we start our service.
Good morning, Beacon. My name is Chad Petrove. I use the pronouns he, him. I'm a middle-aged man with more personality than hair. Get ready to mark your calendars and dust off your most outlandish outfits, because on April 27th, we're throwing the shindig of the year here at Fort Waldron. That's right, it's time for our annual fundraising extravaganza, Spring Forward! The theme, Come As You Aren't. That's right, it's your chance to unleash your inner fashionista and wear something that'll make heads turn and jaws drop. Come in an evening gown, come in black tie, come in your Halloween costume or your pajamas. Dress up or dress down. We just want you to come join the fun. Do you enjoy a dinner that will make your taste buds sing? We've got it. Do you want to quench your thirst on the finest beers, wine, and mocktails at our cash bar? We're going to have that too. Do you love entertainment that will have you on the edge of your seat? Well, guess what? We've got that as well. You want to bring the kids? Can you? Absolutely. Want to find the perfect gift for friends, family, or even yourself? We have raffles. We have price fix items. We have silent bidding. And based on past years, we are going to have a bidding war on mouth-watering jams. Yeah. And if that's not enough bidding, get ready with your paddles for the live auction. Are you excited? This year, we're not just aiming to break records, we are aiming to smash them. Last year, we had over 100 donations of goods and services, but this year, we are setting our sights on doubling that number. Help us make this the best event ever. Download the Octria app and add your donation by March 10th. So what are you waiting for, Beaconites? Tickets are available now on Octria, so grab yours before they're gone. Join us for Spring Forward on April 27th, where the only thing bigger than the fun is the impact you'll make. Yeah. Octria spelled A-U-C-T-R-I-A. I believe information is on the flyers that are available from the ushers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Chad, for reminding us joy persists. We appreciate it. And I didn't give my visual description, but your description of attire got me thinking. I have a chicken suit that I usually only break out for Easter, but I don't know, maybe Spring Forward fundraiser needs a little chicken suit too. I am this morning not in a chicken suit, for those joining us online in need of a visual description. I am a middle-aged white woman, shoulder-length brown hair, and I am short but elevated this morning, both in spirit and in body. This is a Sunday of welcoming back with joy, and our first welcome back is to our pianist, John O'Neill. John has just finished his run as the music director and supervisor of Harmony on Broadway, where he not only conducted the show, but also wrote the wonderful vocal arrangements. John, we're honored and we are lucky to have you here with us. Thank you for returning. And you may recognize Ross Leakites. You may recognize Ross because he has sung here before, but you might also recognize Ross because Ross has appeared on Broadway in The Music Man, Tina, Frozen, and Kinky Boots. He starred as Tony in West Side Story for the national tour, as well as London's Royal Albert Hall. He's also appeared with orchestras including the Boston Pops, the Philly Pops, and the San Diego Symphony. So welcome back, Ross. And one final welcome back. Can you handle all the excitement? I know, it's a little bit much this early in the service. But I also want to welcome back our intern minister, Pablo Vazquez. Pablo has come to be with us all the way from Texas in this multifaceted, sometimes virtual, but always very real internship here with Beacon. And we are so glad that Pablo is here to lead us in worship today. So, beloved, now let us worship. Let us consider what is of worth this day.
There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart.
My name is Daniel Cimbala. I'm the worship associate today, one of many talented and committed members who help contribute to creating worship services. And I'd just like to advertise that I look younger than my 60 years because I have all my hair. I wear glasses to prove the many hours I spend in front of screens grading student papers. And I wanted to know, you all to know that, when someone sees me, they say, "Hey, look at him in that floral embroidered blue shirt. He must be very secure in his manhood." And I have, as a bonus, these maroon corduroys. So today our chalice lighting will be as follows. We kindle the chalice flame to awaken the fire of our ancestors in our hearts. Beacon of freedom held out to light the way, light of reason illuminating the path, spark of courage igniting our spirits, glowing with hope for all we endeavor to do together. Holy flame of our ancestors, brighten this present moment. May we be the love that is our center and our foundation, both. Blessed be. I should say, we now welcome Jeannie Siegel, one of our chaplains, up to tell us more about that.
Good morning. My name is Jeannie Siegel. She, her. I'm a chaplain here at Beacon. I'm 5'2", white woman with brown hair, brown eyes. Thanks again. And I'm wearing a chaplain scarf. This is not a fashion accessory. This is a scarf, which indicates I am a chaplain here at Beacon. Chaplains are trained to extend the spiritual care of our community through deep listening and compassionate presence. All conversations are held in deepest respect and strictest confidence. If you'd like to be connected with a chaplain, or if you think you might have a calling to serve as a chaplain in the chaplain ministry, please speak to Reverend Robin or go to summitbeacon.org and click on Heal the World. Chaplains also facilitate the weekly community candlelighting ritual. This morning, we light a candle of gratitude for the presence and fellowship of our intern minister, Pablo. This morning, we light a candle for all those whose lives have been lost and whose lives have been forever upended in the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Yesterday, as most of you know, was the 2-year anniversary of that brutal conflict. We light a candle of support for all those fighting for reproductive justice in Alabama and across the country. We light a candle of sorrow for Nex Benedict, a non-binary 16-year-old who was beaten to death in an Oklahoma bathroom. There will be a vigil at 10 o'clock today at the UU congregation in Montclair.
I think it's 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock today, sorry, 1 o'clock. And we light a candle of gratitude for all those individuals and organizations who are helping to ease the pain caused by conflicts throughout the world. For all this and so much more, we invite you now to come up and light a candle here in the sanctuary, in your homes, or wherever you are.
pleasure to be with you all here today again. Always very lovely to come up here, especially while it's still cold. My name is Pablo Vazquez. I'm your intern minister. I am 5'7" of caramel complexion with long, curly, and currently unbrushed black hair. I'm wearing all black in mourning for another fellow non-binary person, Nick Benedict. And I am here right now to lead you in meditation. Sit up, be as comfortable as you can get. If sitting up's not your thing, slouch, whatever you need to do to get you into that right mindset. But put your feet down, brethren, because we're about to do embodiment. Close your eyes, breathe in with me. Breathe out. When you hear the word liberation, liberatory spirit, liberatory life, liberatory possibilities, what does that conjure in your soul? When you hear, we are the liberating force, spirit, light, and love, what does that conjure in your spirit? When you hear that we have the power to transform the world around us, what does that mean in your bones? When you hear we are the people that we have been waiting for, and we are, how does that feel in your blood? We are the light. We are the wisdom. We are the ancestors. We are those yet to come. How do we fully hold all of that in ourselves? Now, open your eyes and look at the people around you. There is your beloved community. There is your liberatory spirit. There are their ancestors and the people we've all been waiting for. So embrace them and bring yourselves to the spirits, the bones, the blood of liberation. Thank you.
Please join in hymn 1045, There's a Balm in Gilead. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. Sometimes
Whoops. All right. Okay, should I start over or? Okay. Hi, my name is Michi Nakagama McGee, she, her, and I'm an Asian woman of medium height with shoulder-length brown hair and wearing a bright pink sweater. I'm fairly new to Beacon, first tuning in online in June 2021 during the pandemic, taking advantage of the opportunity to explore other faith groups online after spending 16 years as part of a local non-denominational Christian church. The inspiration to explore other faith communities was my discomfort with how my former church addressed the issues around anti-Asian violence and the Black Lives Matter movement. While words were spoken, they rang hollow to me as I felt an emptiness with the expressions of support. I grew frustrated realizing these topics were not truly relevant to 99% of that congregation. While I was aware of Beacon's existence in Summit, it wasn't until I viewed a Beacon service online that I realized this is where I want to go. While my association with Beacon spans just a few years, my journey in Unitarian Universalist is not new. I grew up in a couple of UU congregations in central New Jersey, New Brunswick and Lincroft, after my father, a self-professed atheist, became interested in the thought-provoking UU sermons. Interestingly, my great-grandfather on my mom's side was one of the first Christian missionaries from Japan to Hawaii in the 1890s. My mother had taken my siblings and me to a Presbyterian church, but that lasted only a few years as my father had no interest in attending. I participated in the LRY, the Liberal Religious Youth Group, in high school, and in college I became interested in Christianity and took a few courses on religion. After converting to Catholicism and raising my kids at parishes in New Jersey and in Brazil on an expat assignment, when we returned to New Jersey just before 9/11, my family realized that that church was not serving our needs, our spiritual needs. Beacon has been so welcoming to me from the first time I visited in person in early 2022 and was warmly greeted by Jessica and John Park. Attending Spring Forward that year and having bid on some of the small group events in the silent auction, I was able to meet some other longtime Beacon members on a more intimate basis, which is so much easier for a newcomer. I serve as a Beacon Cafe hostess and on the Widening the Circle committee, and I enjoy attending many interesting and fun events and learning opportunities here at my Beacon home.
Thank you, Michi. This morning's offering for the good works inside and outside of these walls will now be joyfully given and gratefully received.
People get ready, there's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesel humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord, yeah. People get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and board them. There's room for all of the loved and lost, yeah. Now there ain't no room for the hopeless sinners who's hard on mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those whose chances are thinner, 'cause there's no hiding place from the kingdom's throne. Oh, people get ready, there's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesel humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord, yeah.
Right? Right? Yes, right on. That's something. Thank you so much. This morning's reading is by Reverend Cecilia Kingman, a lifelong UU minister and academic authority on authoritarianism, summarizing some of the ideas from American philosopher Dr. Jason Stanley, who wrote in 2018 a book, How Fascism Works. It's a little bit more downbeat than that song. Dr. Stanley explains that the 10 tactics of fascism, are bundled and can't be isolated from each other. Let us now explore and remember so that we will never forget. The first tactic is a mythic past. Fascists always present the idea that there was once a glorious past. In politics, this is presented in the idea that we were once a great nation. Notice the past tense. This is presented in the idea that we were once a group that ruled over others. But now that's been taken away. Not lost by our own actions, but taken away by some group determined to be other. Stanley says, quote, "Fascists are always telling a story about a glorious past that has been lost." And they tap into that nostalgia. So when you fight back against fascism, you've got one hand tied behind your back because the truth is messy and complicated, and the mythic story is always clear and compelling and entertaining. It's hard to undercut that with facts. The second tactic is propaganda. All social movements and all politics use propaganda to persuade. Fascist propaganda, however, makes a distinction between friends and enemies. It casts the other as a threat and presents the idea that these others are fundamentally opposed to the nation. Tactic number 3 is anti-intellectualism. Authoritarianism presents a cult of the leader. In a fascist system, the leader and only the leader sets the rules about what is true or false. So we see the takeover of the country's media, schools, and cultural institutions to enforce what the leader says is true. Institutions that teach multiple perspectives on history always threaten the leader. Expertise is also a threat to the leader. Science is a threat to the leader. If intellectuals are telling the truth, they are a threat. So, anti-racism, critical race theory, definitely a threat. This brings us directly to tactic number 4, the creation of a form of unreality. The scholar Timothy Snyder talks about this a lot, the destruction of notions of reality. Authoritarians undermine what we know to be true and convince the population that A, everyone is lying, and B, the lies don't matter. In political terms, the center of democracy is truth. You cannot function as a democratic citizen if you are being lied to. Stanley says, if you're going to rip the heart out of democracy, you get the people used to lies. The fifth tactic of fascism is hierarchy. Hierarchy is absolutely central to fascism. If the big lie is at the center of all things, white supremacy, male supremacy, able supremacy, these lies assign people superiority and the privileges and benefits that go with that superiority. Hierarchy leads right into victimhood. Once you have convinced people that they are justifiably higher in the hierarchy, then you convince them that they are also victims of equality. Fascists tell people that equality is victimizing them by making them lose their rightful place and power. Stanley says the goal is to make people feel like victims, to make them feel like they've lost something, and that the thing they have lost has not been taken from them by their own doing, but that they've lost it because of a specific enemy. Usually some minority group, some outgroup, or some opposing nation. According to Aegis Dixon, writing in Truth Out, quote, fascists believe that democracy has failed them and allowed the majority to be tyrannized by communities that have no right to power. Therefore, fascists seek to eliminate both democratic processes and marginalized communities to return them often to a fictitious and glorified past where their power reigned unchecked. The seventh tactic of fascism is law and order. Under fascism, the definition of law-abiding means loyalty to the dominant group. Members of the dominant group, by their very nature, are considered law-abiding. Marginalized group are seen by their very nature not to be law-abiding. And law and order has nothing to do with justice or equality. Law and order structures who is legitimate and who is not. And law and order will ultimately be enforced by violence. The fascism scholar Ruth Ben-Ghiat reminds us that the essence of fascism is violence. Tactic number 8 is sexual anxiety. In every case, across different cultural and historical settings, the fascist leader will always say, your women and children are under threat. You need a strong man to protect your families. Quote, fascists make conservatives overwhelmingly terrified of transgender rights and gay, lesbian, bisexual people and their families. According to fascists, these targeted groups are not simply trying to peacefully live their own lives. They are trying to destroy the majority's lives. And they are coming for the majority's children. Stanley calls the 9th tactic of fascism Sodom and Gomorrah. Fascist movements typically rest on an urban-rural divide. And fascists use a toxic trope of the biblical story of Sodom and Gomorrah. In this trope, pure, hardworking, real members of the nation live in rural areas where they work hard with their hands. But when politicians talk about inner city voters or urban voters, we all know what they mean. Black and queer folk. Immigrants, Jews, and other people that fascists seek to control or eliminate. The 10th tactic is what Stanley, a child of Holocaust survivors, calls Arbeit macht frei, which means work shall make you free. These words were hung over the gates, of course, at Auschwitz. Fascists create an idea that minorities, immigrants, and others are lazy, that these groups need to be taught a work ethic. The mechanism they use is forced labor, whether it's prison labor or work required for benefits. The targeted groups must provide free labor as a supposed moral education. According to fascists, labor unions are supposedly run by communists who are trying to make things easier for these lazy people. College students who protest, conservative speakers are described as lazy, spoiled kids who need to get real jobs. The thing is, the end game of this calculation is evil. Valuing people by how hard they work means that the elderly, disabled, even the children can become disposable. The Nazis murdered these groups first because they believed that those who could not work had no value. Is it any wonder that we are now seeing the repeal of child labor laws in this time of rising fascism? These are Dr. Stanley's 10 tactics of fascism. Be vigilant, always remember, and never forget. Here ends our reading.
Hello again, my Beacon family. Now, I know that was all a little bit difficult to hear, so please breathe in and breathe out with me. Bring yourselves into comfort in this space, because it might get a little bit more uncomfortable. Happy Black History Month, everybody. It may seem like a dark comedy punchline to follow up that reading with such a happy statement. However, if we don't combat hate with love, despair with hope, and sadness with joy, we risk ceding all of our space and all of our lives to the injustices and oppressions that are now so visible before us. However, I would also be remiss not to mention the obvious truth, that the dystopia of the privileged is the lived reality of the oppressed. And that also cannot be forgotten. After all, fascism isn't just alive and well amongst us today, but has been for some of us for a rather long while now. It is never easy to hear that what we fear most happening to us is already happening to others, right in our own time and in our own midst. Nonetheless, we must hear it, for it is not just applicable to our mission of radical and loving inclusivity here at Beacon, but also so that we may bear prophetic witness, as we have for centuries on end within our movement, and the movements that have preceded us, towards those that would wish us to remain blind. I know that it is a hard ask to petition all of you, whether here in this physical space at Beacon or in our virtual communities, to keep your eyes and ears open on a Sunday morning. But in the spirit of prophetic witness, I ask you to at least keep your hearts open. I know that some of you, especially those of you that didn't read the description for today's sermon, don't worry, you won't be quizzed at the end of the service, are probably all wondering what this even has to do with Black History Month, or particularly why it's coming at the end of Black History Month. Pablo, isn't February over already? To me, however, this is actually the most opportune time to talk to you all about something that always worries me at the end of what I like to call our radical holidays of reflection. Too often, we reach the end of Black History Month, Pride Month, Latin History Month, International Workers' Day, Women's Day, and so many other similar reprieves from a history that has ignored the downtrodden, that we forget exactly why these days, months, and celebrations of remembrance exist in the first place. We are quick to forget the great work that our spiritual ancestors and that these very days have called us to not just continue and instead choose to tell ourselves, well, that was a good month. I've learned so much, and I can't wait for the parades or lectures or confusing sermons from Intern Minister Pablo that'll come next year. This sort of thinking is not good for our societies. It's not good for our communities. It's not good for our congregations, and it's definitely not good for our souls. As a radical scholar and student of history, I always joke that the question, what's your favorite time period, is never quite the correct one to ask me. More often than not, I instead find myself reflecting on moments in history where I wish things would have turned out a little better, a little differently. Too often we have seen in history how the great struggles of our time are seemingly abandoned when we reach a good stopping point, where we have achieved just good enough, and hope, perhaps in vain, that the next generation will just pick up wherever we left off. Everyone in this room has lived through a historical nexus point that seemingly decided where we went together as a society. However, no matter your age or your geographical location, you have also experienced disappointment at it not going far enough. I'm not here to trap us in romantic nostalgia of what could have been, my brethren. It is far too easy of a trap, and as someone who loves historical dramas, I can assure you that one could binge through nostalgia as an easy deflection and distraction against what is really in front of us. It gives us an escape by tricking us into thinking that perhaps other times were better, that perhaps other radical movements were superior than they are now, the protests no doubt more effective, and the radical joy and radical activism and just the energy of the space were all just so much more present. I'm asking you right now to banish those very thoughts from your head and realize that the energy has never left us and that the spirit is still within us. And yes, from every generation onward, from when the first worker decided that it was enough, from when the first slave fought against their master, from when the first woman realized that the patriarchal society was not the society we should be living in, these legacies continue on within us and around us as fires that burn not only in our hearts, but kindle the very flames of every protest, of every vigil, of every public declaration that enough is enough and that we can and must do better. You see, family, it's important that we keep those fires burning because it is up to us to make sure that the arc of the moral universe keeps bending towards justice and equity. We may think, oh, but I'm too tired, I'm too old, I'm too busy, I've got better things to do, another historical drama coming on, and every other excuse that pops into our heads. We may think that we no longer can be a part of the change we wish to see in the world because it just doesn't look like the change we contributed to when we were younger, or the kind of change we imagine when we're in our confirmation bias bubbles, or when we're posting online, or when we're holding our vigils for yet another murdered child. I want to inspire you to believe that no matter how you contribute to the struggles before us, whether that's Black liberation, queer liberation, and women's liberation, or any other struggle that brings us into beloved community and radical inclusivity with one another, not just in this space, but out there as well, that any action you take is worth it. And words that you speak to your neighbor are worth it. The donations you make are worth it. And even the commentary you may make on a news article you post online is worth it. We are too accustomed today at being told and telling ourselves that what good does any of this do in reality? Where's the change I'm waiting for? Why hasn't someone just done it already? These are all traps laid by dark forces who wish us to remain paralyzed so that they can run ramshot over our beautiful and free world. But beloveds, how is it exactly that we undertake this duty we are called towards and carry together that light of liberation that can transform us into what our congregation is uniquely conditioned towards being, a beacon of liberation and hope and love? What strategies and tactics can we put forward to combat those we have just heard in the previous reading? I put together some counter tactics of liberation to inspire you all to fight on to continue Black History Month longer than just February, to continue every other radical holiday of reflection past their date of stoppage, and keep them always burning in your heart as you continue the crucial fights and battles that are all so necessary in our world and in our societies today. These are now the 10 counter tactics of liberation. The first counter tactic is remembering our prophetic legacy. It is easy to get lost in despair when you think you're the first to encounter such darkness. However, when you recognize the beautiful struggle that we have always been a part of and those who carried that torch through the darkness all the way to us, we begin to feel less lonely and feel instead as if we are in hand with them all. Fascists always wish to tell some mythical and untrue tale of heroes of ages past. The advantage that we have over them are real heroes, real struggles, and a history that tells us to never give up, because just around the corner we will find and build that better world we have prophesied for centuries on end. The second counter tactic is education. And I don't mean just education in the simple conception of remembering what 2 times 2 is or what date the American Revolution started, but also more importantly, the education to be able to tell truth from fiction and to speak truth to power. In this world of fake news, of fake information and deep fakes and so many other fake things, to be educated about our reality and where we stand within it is such a powerful tool and tactic against the countless attempts to mislead us, to lead us down dark paths, and to have us swallow whole a propagandized message that wants us to hate our neighbor instead of to love them. As such, we embrace knowledge and truth in education and spread it as much as we can so we can fight back in one of the best ways we know how. The third counter tactic is to keep an open mind and an open heart. Yeah, I know these go hand in hand with the previous tactic, but sometimes we find that the most educated of people can sometimes be the most stone-hearted and the least able to accommodate new ideas and ways of living. When we keep ourselves open, we challenge a society that seeks to put us all in categorizations and boxes that are easier to discriminate against, and to convince us to discriminate against those boxes and categorizations we ourselves are not put into. I always tell my partners that my desire to understand them the best I can is an expression of one of my love languages. I hope that by embracing this counter tactic, it also becomes one of yours. The fourth counter tactic is to never back down from telling the truth. Within our societies, there are near endless attempts to convince us that our own truths, whether it is the way we love, the gender we embrace, the history of the degradation of our peoples, or even just the fact that we are not paid well enough or are represented in higher numbers at the best schools because of how we were born, are not true at all and should not be spoken. They wish to replace our truths with their lies, and we mustn't let them. When we speak the truth of what is happening around us, when we speak truth to power, when we speak our truth, we are speaking words that I would argue are more sacred and valuable than any prayer in the world, because they fulfill our sacred purpose, that purpose that we have of acknowledging what is real, what is right, and what we must fight to protect. The fifth counter tactic is community. Fascists do not love community. In fact, I believe it scares them a bit. When they see a community like ours or a community under various different banners marching in the street against them, they don't see the future that they want to forcefully build. Instead, what they see is love, liberation, hope, fraternity, and inclusivity. What the fascists seek to build is strict hierarchies built on severe unrealities, castles of sand built upon a quicksand that could kill us all. What we build instead are fortresses of liberation, shining beacons on the hill that have been spoken about for centuries. When we invite everyone to join us and live their truths and their freedoms, not against us, but in unity with us, as if they were and will be treated not because they could be, but because they are definitely our family. The sixth counter tactic is solidarity. We may look at each other's slight differences and say, no, I couldn't possibly work with this person. Can you believe that they believe this specific thing? Now, I'm not saying we should be working in solidarity with those who seek to destroy us, mind you. We must not tolerate the intolerable, after all. Instead, I'm saying that we should put aside our petty differences and link arm in arm with our brethren so that we can fight this fight on multiple fronts. As the old saying goes, a people united can never be divided or defeated. The seventh counter tactic is civil disobedience, my favorite. Now, this should be an easy one for Unitarian Universalists to embrace. Not only do we come from a legacy of civil disobedience and martyrs within our legacy that stretches decades, if not centuries, but some of our own philosophical ancestors, our own spiritual brethren of ages past, have literally written the book on civil disobedience. And they have defined what we conceive of as civil disobedience today. In fact, Thoreau's civil disobedience inspired the likes of Dr. King, Mahatma Gandhi, the anti-war movements of the Vietnam era, and so many more. We can have all the critiques we want to have about the transcendentalists, and there are many, but this is a legacy that we must continue because sometimes to defend freedom, liberation, and democracy, we must disobey. The eighth counter-tactic is sexual freedom and education. Why? Well, it's obvious. The fascists are obsessed with sex and sexuality, but they know next to nothing about it. Remember how I said that truth is important, that education is important? In this case, it's absolutely crucial. Not only must we teach from an early age the complexities and realities of our bodies, of our genders, of our varied expressions of sex and sexuality, but we must also continue learning about all these matters ourselves. It is saddening to me to run across people my age or older who seem to hear of some young person expressing their true selves for once, or engaging in a free act of love, and just hearing that person call it just another fad. We have to protect and defend and fight for even the things that we may be personally confused by. And I am not saying that we should be defending the reprehensible, no. But we should be always challenging our own stagnant thinking about these matters and working to make sure that education on sex and sexuality is free, open, available, truthful, and always at the forefront against fascist thinking. That would rather that we remain anxious, confused, scared, and hateful, just because they care more about what happens behind closed doors and what we know we are than we do sometimes. The ninth counter-tactic is borderless thinking. As mentioned, there are near endless attempts to divide us out there. Gay or straight, white or black, immigrant or born here, or, as I commonly see in the South, those good old country folks and those perfidious city scum. If we're going to carry the light of liberation, we must use the light from that torch that has been handed down to us throughout the aeons to burn away the borders that divide us day by day. This is not to say that these divisions do not factor continuously in our lives, for sadly, we live within a world and a society and a government that we have consciously and unconsciously allowed to give us certain privileges and disadvantages based exactly on what side of these borders we stand on. Consistently, politicians mention folks from one side of the fence or another to turn them against the other side of the fence, or just because they will vote against them, or for them, or because they simply wish to put us at odds with one another so that they may profit and pay off their millions of dollars in debt. As such, when we rid ourselves of these borders, we see the truth. There is actually so little that divides us, and instead we have so much more in common with one another. The 10th and final counter-tactic is to shift the core of our values from profit and work to love and liberation. In a society that seeks to label people as lazy, unproductive, useless, and unprofitable, it would behoove us to shuck these so-called ideas and values into the waste bin of history, where they belong actually, and instead embrace true values of love and liberation that place an emphasis on our worth through our ethics, through our creativity, through our morality, through our support of our neighbors, through our education, through our solidarity, through our inclusivity, through our open-mindedness, and all the other counter-taxes I've spoken of and more combined that make us the worthy torchbearers of our prophetic legacy, and that will allow us to keep on carrying on the light of liberation past not just a day and not just a month, but for the rest of our lives, until we see our world become exactly as we imagine it in these very walls once again, as a beacon of hope, love, inclusivity, justice, equity, and beloved community. I hope you will leave today and decide to go out there and make these 10 counter tactics a crucial and ongoing part of your lives. And so thank you, my beloved community, and may you all be blessed.
Please rise if you can and join in hymn 1021, Lean on Me. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on me. When you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road and I'll share your load. If you just call me if you need a friend, if you need a friend, call me.
Hello again, Beacon. Please remain standing and hold hand in hand as we are used to in this, our beloved congregation, as I send you off with a beloved benediction. There we go. May you keep carrying on that light of liberation, that very fire in our souls with you, not just for the rest of this month, but for every day and for the rest of our lives, so you may burn away the borders and form more of a beloved community beyond these walls. Blessed be, and have a wonderful Sunday.